welcome to Different Gravy, not just another Sheffield Wednesday podcast. I'm one of the hosts, Richard Miller, and my co-host yesterday stuffed full of turkey and all the trimmings, loosened his belt and accidentally showed everyone his giblets, but he's here today. He's got his trousers pulled up. He's my friend and yours, Dr. Luke Bledall. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm good. I won't be getting the giblets out.
No turkey neck for anyone?
No, I might reheat some turkey for you all for some lukewarm takes on Sheffield Wednesday.
Hey!
Put them in a sandwich, folks.
Warmed over leftovers and warmed over Wednesday chat. It's different gravy. Shall we launch into the news, Luke, or have you got something for us?
I have something for us. It's another Crimble stay-at-home blockbuster, folks, on Amazon Prime, and it is The Unhappiest Season. In The Unhappiest Season, Gary Monk is going home for Christmas to unite for some festive cheer with his staunch family, played by the Chanceries. But alas, not everything is as it seems, as his dad, played by Deshron Chansiri, thinks he is a raging wintersexual, only into playing positive football and winning games, and doesn't realise Gary is part of the LGBTQ community, which stands for losing games being terribly questionable. As this is a historical film, best believe that Gary gets his Christmas wish and comes out of the closet in heartwarming circumstances. He then shit the bed with Wednesday post-Christmas with a queer turn at Stoke City. Guest starring Daniel Levy as the comedic sidekick who was telling Monk he should emulate the worst of Jose Mourinho and go up Schitt's Creek.
Oh, superb. Well, that just sounds like another...
And the surprises.
Once again.
And the surprises keep on coming in this Different Gravy Boxing Day special, folks. We have some guests at the door. Rich, prepare the gravy nog. Why, it's the festive cancel police coming to take me away from podcasting for another questionable joke. Well, come in and make yourself at home, fellas. I'm sure you're full of cheer. And would you please, for the sake of this time of goodwill to all men, let me finish off the episode before taking me in? You can. It's a gravy miracle, folks.
Oh, well, I mean, I'm worried about the fate that, will befall you outside of this little window of podcasting, but it's good that we get this time together, Luke.
It always is. That's what we should all be thankful for this Christmas period, is the time that we can spend together. Sometimes going against laws to do things, sometimes going within laws to do that, and then potentially all getting the COVID and spreading the COVID. And there's times we can do the thing that we've been loving all year, which is doing things over Zoom with our relatives.
Oh, yeah. Yep. You're muted. No, you're mute. You need to, it looks like a microphone. No, like that. Yeah, that's... Oh, what a year it's been of that again and again and again. Mm-hmm. No, you're still on mute. Yeah.
Breaking hoo-hoos.
We're here. There's news. I think just obviously Christmas week a bit quieter in terms of the usual media bits and bobs, but there was some training ground fun to decide who would serve Christmas dinner.
Yes. I've got a lot of comments about this, Rich. First of all, I just want to get into, we've been living in this world of pandemic football where everything seems much lessened, behind a camera screen in empty,
yes.
The sound of people shouting ringing around
echoey
empty
stadiums.
Echoey empty stadia. Just watching that video, so you understand that. Well, we understand because we had it told to us that basically the players were doing a series of games to score points. Did you have any fresh idea as to what was going on?
It looked, I don't know, it looked quite fun, but it was quite hard to tell what was going on. There's some sort of element where the ball was being rolled very slowly, almost like It looked like something out of curling.
Yes, exactly.
And unironically, Patterson looked like he was quite good at that bit, just because that's the only thing that Scotland rules the world in sporting wise is curling.
Yeah.
What did you make of it? What did you think was going on?
I have no idea. I've no idea. That was the bit I kind of enjoyed it in a weird way. Maybe it's because I'm English Canadian now, so obviously now I absolutely adore curling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really. So seeing, was it Adam Reach jockeying backwards with his palms kind of outstretched, leaning over to pick the ball up and run with it for a bit like rugby? I don't know.
But we don't know the full crew that lost and therefore had to serve Christmas dinner. But we got some selected highlights. What did you make of that? That sort of we talked last week about optics. What did you make of? And I'm not making any wider comment here. But what did you make of Che Dunkley, Moses Odubajo, and Deli Bashiru serving everybody their dinner?
I thought that it's probably the closest to decent service that Odubajo is getting anytime soon.
Hey.
And Deli Bashiru, because Deli Bashiru is seemingly not good enough for the first team,
but good enough to serve everyone.
Yeah, good enough to get some turkey and dumplings, or I don't know, a bit of mashed potato for everybody.
The other bit of news is that this link to an old flame. It's like last Christmas all over again, and we're having an elongated dalliance with Sam Hutchinson. It appears.
And I'm disappointed for a number of reasons. I don't think the key to Sheffield Wednesday's future is Sheffield Wednesday's past.
No.
I don't know. It's weird. I mean, from last season, if we objectively look back, I think Hutchinson was okay in most of the games last season. I kind of remember him playing.
I remember us being fairly frustrated at his limitations. So the enthusiasm was there. He was fit. His fitness was there, but I remember his passing letting him and the team down on several occasions, and including one or two where he inexplicably just passed it straight to the opposition and they scored from it. I remember that happening.
Right. How often do you think we had the whole kind of him poleaxing a player just outside the box? How did he do against that? Which is the measure of all Sheffield Wednesday players, really, is giving fouls outside the box.
Well, particularly Monk's Wednesday was, how many chances do you want? Do you want to cross it? Do you want to shoot? You'll get opportunities to do both again and again and again. I don't remember him being any better than anybody else, and we were really bad at that last season. So presumably he was up there with the worst offenders, because it's kind of what marked him out. Is the most notable thing about Sam Hutchinson's time at Wednesday was like record-breaking numbers of yellow cards and falling out with managers. That's the main thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you want to be positive, obviously he also got the goal against Arsenal in that very fine performance in the cup. If you want to be negative, he missed the penalty in the semi-final, the playoff semi-final. So a checkered, certainly not an absolute 100% glowing, wonderful thing. He joins us having played 5 times this season.
I think it was 7, I think.
Okay, Wikipedia are behind. I think it might be 5 league appearances and maybe 1 in the cup. We also saw the clip of him murdering someone.
Yes.
By tackling them around hip height. But it's hard to feel it's an unalloyed sort of exciting development to have him back.
I think it's also the frustration of just knowing right now. I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy because the lack of other options that we're playing Kieran Westwood right now, and I'm happy that Kieran Westwood, isn't pulling out massive clangers for the past 2 games. No, but let's kind of temper that with as it kind of stands, because he's clearly not the keeper he was in his pomp. But I'm also frustrated to basically have this player, Sam Hutchinson, alongside Kieran Westwood, who were players kind of identified as bad uns by a number of regimes.
Yeah.
And this is something which Tony Pulis comes in and weirdly pines for. And I don't kind of understand it. I really don't understand how this is coming about. First of all, for him to say, I guess from what he's seen, but again, it's a bit like I feel again it's Tony Pulis being like, well, I did some research on Wednesday a couple of years ago when I managed against them for Middlesbrough, and this is how strong they were then, and these were the recognised characters.
Also, he was heavily linked with the job. Would it have been when Monk won it?
Yes, he turned it down apparently.
So, yeah, you wonder if it's also part of that research as well.
Yeah, because it just feels a long time since. I mean, to be as positive as possible, Sam Hutchinson was a big character for Sheffield Wednesday. He was a great free transfer.
Yeah.
We remember a lot of his prime, really, when he came about under the time of Stuart Gray, and, you know, still valuable in the time of Carlos Carvajal. After then, it's been a bit more kind of checkered.
I think he was the heartbeat for Carvajal at times. I think slightly, you know, slightly undersells him to say that I think he was always there when he was fit. His fitness was a question mark under Carlos, but he seemed almost ever present in terms of his availability for Jose and Gary Monk. But both those managers chose not to pick him at various times for various reasons. I suppose one way. So let's we're being negative about this link to kind of flip things around and point out some of the positives. He's a versatile player. He can play centre back and defensive midfield. We have noted, somewhat unhappily, certainly in your case, that Joey Pelupessy has played a part in almost every game this season, and he's had a starting run in the side as that kind of anchor in midfield. So I don't think you'd hear much argument in terms of saying that Hutch is a better player than Pelupessy. So if we're playing Pelupessy and we get some time out of Hutch, that's probably an improvement, albeit a slight one. We also can't seem to keep defenders fit, so having another guy that can play in the defence is probably not a bad option. We seem to have two that are fit regularly, and then the third person always seems to get injured at the moment. So it's not exciting. It's I suppose he's not going to cost that much, and hopefully he can come in and do a job of shoring things up. But it's not something that's particularly appealing or exciting.
Yeah.
Do we want to move into, speaking of not appealing or exciting, do you want to talk about today's game?
Let's do it, Rich. Yeah.
I've got to say, got to be honest, in prep and sort of building up to this, I was kind of dreading this. I thought going away to the top scorers in the division, I was just waiting. You know, I thought it had the potential to be a real embarrassing day for us.
Yes.
I was sort of preparing myself mentally for the worst, and I was worrying for what that might do to our little tiny crumb of confidence that we will have gained from winning the last game. And a couple.
When you say little, do you mean little or do you mean Lidl? As in, like we don't have much crumbs of confidence, but also we've also bought them from. It's a Lidl.
Discount. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's discount. It's not the brand is actually not confidence. It's a crumb of hope, which is their off-brand version of confidence. Confluence is what they actually call the brand name.
So it's a Lidl crumb of Confluence.
It's a crumb of Confluence, yeah, and it's close enough that you can almost not tell the difference, but you definitely can tell the difference. But it was a lot cheaper, so exactly. You've got to count your savings.
I mean, it is cheaper, but we still kind of overdrew went massively into our bank draft just to get that.
Oh yeah,
that Confluence.
Oh, we'll be paying that back for 5-6 years. Yeah, almost. Yeah. Road style terms on that little crumb of Confluence. A gift that keeps taking. Odebajo brought back in after being sent away to Coventry for his terrible, desperate crimes, or potentially, I don't know about this. I don't know about whether you heard this, Luke, but potentially he might have been suspended in that last game, and it wasn't actually anything to do with his punishment at all.
Exactly. Though I do like you saying he was sent away for Coventry. I'd like to actually think that when we played Coventry at home, we just told him it was away, and then said, "Yeah, we'll meet you there, Moses. This is your punishment. You've got to get there yourself." He's like, "Sure, boss."
There you go. You got to take your skateboard and get to Coventry. And he's like, "Don't have a cow, man."
I was more thinking of him like in Back to the Future, like riding like a pickup truck, on the back with his shades on, riding his skateboard down to Coventry.
Oh.
Also, Huey Newis at the Louvre. Oh, that's the power of love.
The power of love. And I can't quite remember where Coventry are playing nowadays, but is it still like a hockey stadium in Northampton or something? Is that
No, it's Birmingham, St Andrews, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Okay. Oh, yes, of course.
The Trillion Stadium, or whatever it is.
Yeah. But he went to the Ricoh Arena and was surprised that there was no grass on the pitch, and just sort of kicked his heels for a little while. Oh man! And then went back.
I think he lamented the pandemic because he's like, I'm sure during this time John Bon Jovi would be playing at the Ricoh Arena.
Every seat filled with a photocopier at the Ricoh Arena. So we welcomed back Eustace as part of a back three. Odebajo ended up playing left wing back with Palmer at right back. And a midfield three, which was Pelupessy, Patterson, and Bannon. And then Reach and Windass up top, which...
Interesting.
A lip-smacking duo that you may remember from the early cup win against Rochdale, was it?
Yes.
Yeah, striking out pretty unconvincingly against Rochdale. But there we go. Try it again. Might as well. You've only got so many toys. Just put them together and see what happens. See what sort of adventure they go on. I sort of mentioned before we kicked off, I had a choppy streaming experience for most of the first half. Maybe my own fault in retrospect. Maybe I was downloading something, or I don't know. But Blackburn had a couple of early penalty shouts. Did you think there was any merit in either of those?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember anything about that. I'm going to be honest.
I think the second one stuck in the mind more, which was Van Aken sort of sliding in on Gallagher on the kind of corner of the box. He managed to get his shot away, which I think is why the ref didn't really pay much attention to it. But it looked a bit sloppy from Van Aken. Like he definitely kind of pulled Gallagher down with him. I don't think he made any contact with the legs particularly. But well, if they didn't stand out, then that probably shows that they weren't particularly great calls for one of my early highlights as well was that Patterson doing a really cool sort of back heel clearance, a sort of slightly flamboyant back heel, using his right leg behind his left leg and clearing it to the halfway line from our box, which kind of gives you an idea of the feel of that first half. But I'm conscious you've got a few more notes, so I'll lean on your observations.
Let's see. Let's kind of go back through my notes here. What do I have? Just in terms of also, I just want to kind of quick look at the lineup as well, just chip in a little bit here, just to add a touch of a little flourish to the lovely cake you made talking about the lineup there, Rich. Still no Action Mass.
No.
I think we heard midweek that maybe he was someone who's going to come back in, and apparently I think they've said after the game now he's going to be due an extended spell on the sidelines.
Oh, balls.
So, but also there seem to be a lot of players struggling for fitness, including Bannon and Windass.
Yeah.
And they were both apparently deemed fit, including Harris as well. So Harris was on the bench, I guess, for fitness. Maybe surely because we're coming into another run of,
furious run of games.
Three games in just over a week. Now I guess that's kind of the mentality is looking at.
Yeah. And you wonder how fit some of the players that started were, because going ahead, fast forwarding ahead slightly, 2 of our 3 subs that went off the players that were substituted off looked like they were carrying something when they went off as well, which maybe they picked up in the game, but maybe they were struggling beforehand.
We do this podcast just pretty much after the game, and then we usually get ourselves watered, deprived of water, and then Rich and I just talk for sometimes half an hour before we do the podcast about
deprived of
else.
water. Makes it sound like we have to like weigh in before we start.
Yes, we do. We're all just cutting weight before it gets going.
Yeah.
But when we kind of come around and do this, apparently JVA and Reach have picked up injuries. Adam Reach has done his hamstring.
That's what it looked like. Yeah. And Van Aken groin.
Right, which is funny because when he went down, we can get onto that, but he looked like he clutched his knob.
I mean, that is the general area.
It is. It is. But kind of first half notes, we had that moment that Odebaji fell over the advertising boards.
Yeah.
But it was apparently okay. I unfortunately got to miss that bit. I'd like to go back and watch it again. I'm glad he's okay. So it kind of feels a bit like, like one of those America's Funniest Home Videos, but you have the joy of knowing that they haven't died or seriously injured themselves. So then you can laugh at it. So now that I know he's okay and he hasn't injured himself, which you're worried about for a second, then I'd like to go back and watch it again and have a chuckle at that.
Have a chuckle at it, yeah. There's an MMA fighter who is tremendous value on Instagram called Derek Lewis. And he posts the most horrific videos. And then underneath of like people having accidents or like doing stupid things in front of cars or whatever. And he always posts underneath, he's okay or she's okay. And he just says that. Like some of these people cannot possibly be okay. But I think it gives you enough of that deniability that you can just enjoy the silliness of the particular video if you want to not investigate anything. You go back and take in the moment without worrying about the long-term effects for Moses. That sounds fair enough.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of this first half is, Wednesday setting themselves up as a counter-attack team, which we have. It shouldn't really surprise any of us that I think in the first half, at one point, the stat was, Wednesday with 25% possession as opposed to the 75% for Blackburn. So, I kind of understood that. I think just for large degrees of this, I'll get my comments about Blackburn kind of out of the way. I mean, they look like a team of multiple cloned young Ben Marshalls, all with slightly different genetic codes.
Yes, yeah.
The thing I thought was interesting, I didn't think, annoyingly, we didn't get much change in this game from that, is I was thinking, because I've mentioned the fact that, they were playing like a 4-3-3, I think it was. And there's a number of players who, they're not slight. I think, they've still got a bit of build to them, but they're all pretty small, nimble, quick, impressive attacking players. They've got a whole string of them, which, really speaks to the fact, as you said, that, even just only notching one against Sheffield Wednesday today, they must be pretty fucking pissed off with themselves that they haven't scored 2 against us. They're still top of the goal scoring charts with, I think, joint on 35 now. So, I get that. But the thing I was thinking about with this was like, I don't think there was any great players who really had any great height to them.
No, I mean, Gallagher's a decent. Sam Gallagher's a decent size, isn't he, up top? But that midfield is, as you say, they're all slightly different shades of the same guy, same archetype, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all pint-sized milkshakes.
Little bit of a burst of pace, kind of tricky looking, but whether they are or not, and little kind of tufty guys.
It's the clash that we've been calling Lidl versus Little.
Yes.
So, but I was disappointed. I feel we should have won more stuff in the air. I mean, that's the weird thing is, like, I know we're packing the midfield to try and do that out. I was a bit disappointed that Patterson was in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of viewed this differently. I mean, well, I guess from the lineup, I think they were saying on the feed that I had, I'm sure you probably had the same feed, they were theorizing that it was going to be a 4-5-1 with, Adebayo and Reach on the wings And then essentially Patterson, Windass alone up top, and then the mid three of Bannon, Patterson, and Joey P.
It didn't look like that to me, but because I thought Reach was pretty consistently up with Windass and sort of interchanging with Windass. It felt to me it might have been 1-1.
Right, but I still felt that whole.
1-1,
yeah, but I still felt that Windass was pretty much isolated on his own.
Yes, I agree. I do agree, but I think there's always that gap between what happens and what was the intention, and I think weirdly what happened with the goal, even though it was quite lucky, you kind of saw what the point of those the way we were set up was.
Kind of. I mean, to get onto just before we get to the goal,
sorry.
For the vast majority of that first half, I've called it's a blunt onslaught, like being constantly attacked by a square pillow. You're just hoping an edge doesn't catch you in the eye in the process.
Yes.
So we did very well at nullifying. I just didn't think we were pretty wasteful in possession. It was difficult for us to really build anything. I guess we're having those situations, and we did a lot during this game where we looked to get forward with some pace. But again, there seems to be a bit of a lack of passing in the final third. I think overall, maybe more often than not, I want to say. I don't know. I mean, actually, it was interesting. But I mean, the interesting thing was, that was pretty much the story of the first half. Was Wednesday under a very soft, mildly nagging Kosh. And then, the 40-minute mark, out of nowhere, we took the lead. Yeah,
it was a sort of volley forward from Bannon.
Yeah, to go a bit back from that, Odebajo had it down by the side. He was marked. He did this brilliant little flick out in a tricky situation.
Yes.
And I don't know, did Bannon kind of control it first, or did he just do this karate kick?
A weird sort of balletic, it was sort of awkward but effective into a weird little jump and volley. And neither of the two frontmen actually challenged for the ball. It was both the Blackburn defenders going up for it together.
Yes, they met each other much like Jupiter and Saturn in the night sky.
Dropped to the feet of Reach, and he set himself and curled it beautifully into the top
Such
top
a
corner.
Beautiful casual curl from him.
Nonchalant. I mean, he sort of lobbed the keeper, basically, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
He dropped it into that top corner.
But obviously there's that curl kind of placing to it.
Yeah, gorgeous.
It was
really great finish.
Wonderful. I was surprised he didn't celebrate, which was a bit weird.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of that, really.
I don't know. Maybe I'm not going to try and be too negative about such a brilliant goal.
I know.
But
we're so used to trying to read these weird smoke signals from the team, aren't we? And that felt like potentially another one. But yeah, I think you don't want to go into too much. I don't think he's a big celebrator anyway. But I don't know. I mean, Mowbray will have been his boss at some point, wouldn't he? At Borough. I don't.
Yeah, I guess so.
Weird. That's a sort of weird reason not to celebrate, though, isn't it? I was wondering if it was one of his many loans, but it wasn't one of his many loans.
No, because he was at Preston, wasn't he?
Yeah, Darlington, Shrewsbury, Bradford, and Preston were his loans. Yeah, a strange one, but a great finish. Let's not take any of the shine off. Beautiful, nonchalant finish, completely against the run of play. Although, as you say, really. Although they'd had an awful lot of the ball, the best team in the league in terms of scoring goals looked pretty toothless for that.
They looked pretty lame Tigers,
Yeah, mauled by the clawless Tigers. I was on the Blackburn commentary end of things, and I don't know who the co-commentator was, but he was Paul Scholes without the charisma. So dry, it was like he was even boring himself. Really dreadful stuff, and completely banal. But they were silent for a full minute, I think, after Reach scored.
Excellent. That's very funny.
They were really hugely disappointed. Anything else from that first half?
Brilliant moment on the halftime mark where Windass on the angle strikes it very tightly out for a throw-in.
Yes.
And that was pretty much all she wrote for the first half. And then, we get in at halftime 1-0 to the good. Only having a quarter of the possession, and I think both teams just having, one shot on target each.
And to be honest, I couldn't really remember Blackburn's shot on target. But
no, I think it was pretty mild for Westwood. That's the thing. So much of these games we set ourselves up for the counter-attack.
Mm-hmm.
And we're never. It's nothing to make me feel like we're 100% convincing. I probably feel we're 100% convinced about a counter-attack Wednesday if we had a bit more control in the middle of the park, kind of maybe the first half of our half, if we had a bit more there, a bit more kind of, and then if we scored more than one goal, I think those would be the hallmarks of a convincing Wednesday counter-attack performance. But I mean, it was definitely incredibly solid, and us just nullifying Blackburn to a really great extent.
Yeah, I think nullified is the right phrase. This clearly, as we touched on, a very successful attacking team by and large, and looked nothing special against us. I think for most of the game, really. I mean, it's unfortunate. We'll get to how the result played out. We're quickly approaching the sort of meat of that. In terms of the start of the second half, we played a bigger part in the sort of early goings of the second half than we did in most of that first half. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought Windass had a couple of sniffs. There was the bit where sort of Reach won his tackle on the edge of the box and played Windass in, and he had two shots in a row, and I don't think he knew just how. That was when the sort of Blackburn player cleared it into his own man, and it landed at Windass's feet. And Windass sort of quickly took a shot with his left, and I think if he'd had a look, he had quite a lot of time to pick a shot. Actually, there was no pressure on him. The Blackburn were really at sixes and sevens. There's also Reach had a really, I would say, a big chance, maybe the best chance of the game, when Bannon played him through, and he was just inside the box with nobody between him and the goal, and apart from the goalkeeper, and he sort of rushed his shot and hit it short of the near post, but that really felt like a big moment. Potentially, he could have, again, if he'd taken a bit of time and produced a bit of quality. That was a big moment, because it happened as well just as Blackburn were preparing all of these new players to come onto the pitch, which did change the flow a fair amount. They took off Sam Gallagher and brought on Ben Brereton. They took off Lewis Holtby and Bradley Johnson and brought on Bradley Dack and Stuart Downing. They were very excited to see Dack back. I think that's the first time he's played in a year for the first team. And I think the reason that Dunkley kind of gave him a handshake when he came on, it was against Wigan, was the last time he played. So that sort of explains a little bit there. That moment between those two, if you saw that at all. But that, I mean, almost a new whole team of attackers, and I think we would possibly take their starting three over our three. I think we definitely take the three that came on over our front line. And then they did kick it up a notch. They built up a bit of a head of steam. Armstrong hit the post in the 65th minute with a very decent effort, and then Van Aken went down with a groin strain, and the ref sort of told him off for time wasting, which annoyed Van Aken because I think he was genuinely injured. I also didn't think we'd done that much. I suppose time wasting is one of those things that you don't notice as much when it's your team doing it. But I didn't feel like we'd taken the mick or anything.
No, I didn't think that by any stretch of imagination at all. No, I'm completely with you there, Rich.
I was quite surprised, the ref's reaction there, and then also quite how long was added on in terms of time at the end as a result of that. But Van Aken clearly feeling something. It looked like his groin. It looked a little bit more central than what we normally talk about as a groin, but he was having a good rummage around the whole area as he was wandering off the pitch. And I wondered what was going to happen in terms of that change. We've seen Shoei mainly as a midfielder, even though he came through as a defender. He's played most of his football in midfield this season, and the last game had actually a pretty shining role as the most attacking of the midfielders. So strange to see him drop in like for like at left centre back, particularly against Armstrong, who is a tricky customer. He's given us headaches before, has Armstrong. I think, did he pick up a couple of goals against us last season? Can't quite remember.
Probably. I know. Well, Blackburn seems to be a team who it feels like many of their players seem to have a knack of scoring again.
Yeah, those buggers. I'm just having a little look if I can find.
Whatever happened to? Wasn't that one of the more disappointing things about losing substantially to Blackburn? Was it last season? With that, who's that old knacker yard striker who bagged a hat trick against us, and he's garbage?
the old knackers yard striker. I'm trying to have a look.
No worries, I can look, and if you want to keep talking, and we can come back to this later. He's not there anymore, but
I'm just trying to see. Because they scored, they beat us 5-0, didn't they?
Yes. Yes, they did.
I can't. Annoyingly, on the Who Scored, it doesn't tell you who scored. Not Who Scored, Soccer Base, it doesn't tell you who scored.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you who played. It tells you it was 5-0. Oh, maybe this will. Holtby got 2 in that game. Dawson own goal. Lenihan got 1, and Sam Gallagher got the other.
Oh, it must have been previous years. Anyway, I'll look into that and I'll get back to you. But
we don't have a glowing record against Blackburn. It's got to be said.
We don't. No, there seems to be a team that seems to do pretty well against us overall.
I seem to have imagined Armstrong's great appearance against us last season as well, because that doesn't seem to have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Which is typical, really. But anyway, he's a tricky little player. He's good with both feet. He's a not an easy guy to mark as a centre back. Certainly not a big kind of lolloping centre back, which Shaw is in the mould of. What did you make of their goal? Disappointing to concede anyway, but
yes,
something particularly disappointing about someone making it look so easy.
Yes. I think actually that player from a previous season who scored a hat-trick against us away at Blackburn was 2 seasons ago. It was Danny Graham.
Oh, right, yes. That's Tom Lees' bête noire, isn't it?
Danny Graham.
Well, yeah, lumbering, wily. He just loses his mind against those sort of players.
Mm-hmm. So the goal that they scored. This is a really strange one to look at because I probably preamble and probably do a bit of precursing towards a player who I thought did very well today, but I genuinely think he made a big error in that, and that was Barry Bannon, who I felt did very well. He was very, very casual to lay off.
Yes.
I mean, it definitely from a Blackburn perspective, it is a very good solo goal. Mm-hmm. But again, there's a real comfort for teams running at us and whoever has the ball. So that was Rothwell, was it?
It was Rothwell. Somebody else had a little go before that as well. So it was almost like he was shown the way. But like, actually, if you run at these guys...
But it always seems to be the thing. I mean, it never works out for us that way. I mean, I would also say, though, that like teams playing against us have a more of a kind of attacking bent and can kind of keep playing through us. So when they're in those situations, they're there with options and they can just kind of full of head of steam and full of confidence. Whenever we get situations when we're on the counter, it's always like a play like Harris gets it out wide or reach and then kind of takes it out wide further to create some kind of time for other players to join him or to try and get a marginal win on the outside of a player. While it just seems that for Wednesday, in the opposite situation, we've got plenty of men back, they've got plenty of men back, they just run straight at us. And it causes no end of heartbreak. And I don't fully understand, Rich, why it's so difficult for our players to comprehend defensively.
Partly it's the style of defending, isn't it? So this kind of the game we're playing today defensively is, don't worry, Blackburn will have a lot of the ball. They'll move it around. They'll move it quickly. But if we keep our shape, if you keep marking your channels, your every player's got things that they're watching out for. If you keep doing that, we will keep solid, and it doesn't matter what they do, essentially. And that's what 65 minutes of the game is them looking lovely, passing it around, nice and admirable football. I said 65, it's 75 minutes, wasn't it? But admirable football, and then brick wall. What do we do? We can't do anything. They're defending the box, and we don't have any clever way around that. I do think that does open up occasionally, and we've had it a couple of times. We had it against Norwich. We had it today. A player with pace, ability to dribble, can just make that sort of static, hold your ground defending look pretty stupid. Because if they can dash into those spaces that you are leaving, the gaps that are there, because you're a rigid shape that you're holding, somebody who's able to break those lines quickly and skillfully, sort of breaks the system.
Yes.
That's when you need somebody to be brave and step up and do something out of, something different. And I think probably fair, there's some criticism of Patterson, Pelupessy. That's where our lovely fouls that we have on the edge of the box that we are so fond of, that's when you should do one, is when somebody is charging through your defence.
Yes.
But I think that's always going to be the way with somebody who trains the team like Pulis. All he does is shape. All he does is drilling shape and holding shape.
Yeah.
And you're almost asking the players to be robots. And then when the moment's right, switch on and make a brave decision. And maybe that will come in time. Maybe there is room for both of those things. But it's such a change of mindset of you don't engage, you don't sell yourself, you just hold your shape, you let them do their thing. And then you're asked to completely flip that script in those moments. And I think spotting those moments, reacting properly, I suppose that's the difference between a decent, okay player and a good player, is that you spot that that's the moment to do your thing. I think that's what Luongo does amazingly well. I think he really knows, he feels the moment and reacts to it. Defensively, I don't know that we've got a player other than Luongo that does that. I think Bannon is quite poor defensively generally. Patterson's a sort of odd character defensively, even though he kind of spent a lot of his career at right back. He doesn't. I don't know. Doesn't seem to have those instincts. And Pelupessy is a robot. He just follows the orders he's given, so he doesn't really break rank and do things out of the ordinary. But then it's a succession of failures, isn't it? So those two midfielders should do. There's the lax approach from Bannon opens things up. There's those, so it means people aren't on their mettle at that moment. There's Patterson and Pelupessy not putting themselves in harm's way and taking a card. But then what's Tom Lees doing? What's Che Dunkley doing? There's a huge gap there that they don't close. They don't do anything. And then I also think Westwood's slow to come out and slow to get down.
He's very slow to get down. Yeah.
It's a sort of an orchestra of uselessness, all caused by this guy doing a thing that's so out of the ordinary. I think it was a brilliant run by Rothwell. I thought he had a great game. There was a few players I really liked the look of in that Blackburn team. It's hard not to kind of look on it.
Is it pretty much nearly the entire starting 11 and their subs of Blackburn?
I just thought he stood out as that guy, sort of what we want. A good day for Bannon is sort of what Rothwell did today, picking it up off those defenders not particularly comfortable on the ball and passing the ball, but Rothwell would come back and apply that layer of precision and just a quality of delivery that gets the ball to somebody in that, in between the lines and gives them a chance to do something. I think they were let down by players not doing that well enough once they got that kind of 2/3 up the pitch moment.
Yeah.
But he kept delivering the ball to people in that position. And almost, I think his run was he was frustrated at, you guys just aren't doing this right, so I'm just going to go do it myself. But it was a great run to go through. And then to finish it off, I mean, he finished it brilliant. I don't imagine he gets lots of goals where he's playing in that kind of deep-lying midfield role. But he really didn't look out of place once he got into the box. It was a very fine finish. But really frustrating because we had been comfortable up to that point. We really weren't rocking and reeling. This was not Swansea. This was a kind of holding them at arm's length and feeling pretty assured about things by and large.
But I mean, how I get that point. But I mean, looking at the stats, they've had 16 goal attempts, only 4 on target, effectively 6 block shots, 6 shots off goal. I don't know, but this is the problem, though. It's so many. It's just the law of averages, though, against Wednesday. Like, because I think we had the same thing with Norwich. We're like, well, the only 2 shots on game we conceded, and this was like the only shot of any danger is a goal. But then is that just purely the odds of, a team just going at Wednesday from the off?
But again, a bit like, I don't think it is an odds thing. I think Norwich looked a better team than Blackburn by and large. That's an interesting observation that if you think about it, the shots they had on target, the good ones, or the shots that were close. So I think Westwood made one very good save. He made a good save. The Bannon did a brilliant little drop the shoulder, cut inside the fullback, pushed his way into the wing position, and then played an awful, awful cross. Just passed it to their centre-back, basically. Gave neither of the guys in the box a chance. And the break from that put Armstrong one-on-one with Shaw, and he turned him inside out, and Westwood made a great save.
And also shout out to Tom Lees, who made a crucial kind of deflection after Westwood had made the save as well.
Yes, definitely. But I think what you look at is, so the things that Westwood had to do outside of that. So I'm not taking anything away from that save. It was a really good save. I don't know that the other 2 keepers could do that. So, well done, Westwood. Outside of that, there's the Rothwell chance. I think he's slow off his line. I think he's slow to get down. Not by no means is that a goalkeeping error, but maybe a goalkeeper would do better. The other shot on target, really, that it's not on target when it hits the post, but he was beaten by Armstrong's effort. Yeah, that hit the post, beaten all ends up. So we are in a position, unfortunately, where every time you get through, I suppose what I'm trying to say is attempts on goal don't really mean anything. We've had games where we've had 16 shots on goal, and they're like, did we ever actually challenge the goalkeeper?
I know, but
I suppose what I'm saying is I didn't think today necessarily needed to be. I don't think there was an inevitability about the way Blackburn were playing. No, I think they had one brilliant moment, and we didn't answer it with a good moment of our own. And actually, I think we should have done better at the other end of the pitch. I also think Ayala should have been sent off.
What for? When he took down Windass?
He took out Windass, which should have been a red card all on its own. And then, like less than 5 minutes later, Harris did him, and he just put his foot through him. And I couldn't believe it was the same guy. I was like, the ref didn't give a yellow for it, it was so cynical what he did to Harris. But I also couldn't believe it was the other guy that just got by on the skin of his teeth 5 minutes before. He probably would have got a yellow if he hadn't already had one, which, again, there's nothing in the rules that says 2 yellow cards is 2 yellow cards. It's not like, well, that second yellow really has to be a bad one because you've got a yellow card already. It's, you do another thing that would get you a yellow card, and he did. Yeah. So I thought with Reach's chance, I thought that was the best chance of the game that Reach had from the edge of their box. But I thought Windass's was decent. But those, I think, add those chances together, and it's better than anything that Blackburn managed to develop. We did have one let off because I thought Armstrong at the end. We nearly had that moment where Dak sort of chipped it at him.
Yes. And they kind of hit him in the face.
Kind of hit him in the face and the hand, and then went straight to Westwood. But that, on another day, that could have been them walking away with a 2-1 win. which maybe adds to your inevitability argument.
Yeah, it's just
Patterson also did a great block on Brereton shot
mm-hmm.
At one point. That was a really good bit of defending from him.
But I don't know. I'm saying this purely from the position.
Oh, we had a disallowed goal, by the way. Sorry, I don't know why that was disallowed.
Yes. I just want to say my piece, Rich, before we kind of get on to that. I mean, it's just as a Wednesday fan, it's tiresome to just keep watching these same situations again. We are getting more competent in dealing, in nullifying those attacks to much lesser. And I felt we were incredibly unfortunate against Norwich to come away with absolutely nothing from the game. Crime is a strong word, but then you can probably look at them and say they're an exceptionally good side.
Yeah.
Today was a point I'd still take, but again, it's just difficult to be leading and then throw that away again and to have another game along those lines. But it's just, I don't know. It's generally the nature of Sheffield Wednesday and being a Sheffield Wednesday fan that it's never particularly easy when we get a lead. It's never particularly easy on the eye. It's never particularly easy watching, no matter what happens.
Do you just? I mean,
But I'm just sick of seeing so much of this from opposition sides.
I know, and I also don't want to nullify. Like, I don't want to try and negate. I absolutely feel that frustration and that feeling. Today, there's days that feel a little bit different, and I thought, to me, today felt different from the long list of similar situations, similar performances.
Yeah,
for the reasons, but we had that. I mean, Monk as well. We'd get one goal.
Yeah.
And then we try and hold on to it. And I thought today we actually didn't do that. Well, not till later on, because we came out having scored the goal against the run of play and actually had our best period of the game. Was that 15, 20 minutes at the start of the second half? We were a much bigger part of the game. I don't know what the possession stats were for that period in particular, but we actually had some chances, got forward, built some moves. We weren't Odebajo and Bannon had some nice interplay on that side. Reach sort of was pulling out onto the wing, and again, I think it was sort of Bannon driving things. So it wasn't that we immediately kind of cowered and doubled down on the defence. We kind of looked like we tried to go and grab another goal, to me, and put a lot of pressure on their backline. I thought their backline were creaking a few times, and there was even when we made the switch to put Patterson up top, I thought they were Arla again was quite lucky to get away with a bit of a sloppy bit of play. I think I'm frustrated. I am frustrated anyway. I'm frustrated anyway. I'm frustrated in a different way by today's game, in that this was I thought this was ours to win today against all odds, against the form and whatever else.
I also had that feeling kind of coming out the gates. Actually coming out the gates, it wasn't, not that it was terrible, but I just had a moment in the second minute and thought, this kind of feels like a game where Wednesday scored really early out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It had that kind of feel to proceedings. Can we talk a bit more? You've mentioned it briefly. Yeah. It's big on mine. On the 80th minute, offside on Tom Lees. Or, don't know if it's offside on Tom Lees, but it's an offside call after Tom Lees scores.
Yeah. It didn't look offside to Tom Lees didn't look offside.
Tom Lees definitely wasn't offside. I think if you would have, I've seen some stuff on Twitter from people talking about this. Peter Lohman's been on Twitter, been doing JFKing it shot by shot. And I can probably see an argument which is crap, but maybe it's the same law as the Premier League. If you're having VAR and, if you get your spirit level out, digital spirit level all across the pitch, then maybe Lees's arm is offside. But again,
you can't play the ball with your arm.
No, you can't. It's shit. And I agree with you. But if that's the case, but outside of that, I don't really have any great. We don't get the joys of multiple camera angles.
No. My assumption was he'd given it because the guys, I thought maybe one or two of the guys in the middle were off, but I don't think they actually played an active part in the goal. No.
So again, it should have stood.
I think he kind of put his flag up on the balance of maybe those guys. Yeah, it's like a kind of 6 of one, half a dozen the other, but
Yeah.
you've got to make a decision one way or another, and he went against us. But again, that would have been it would have been a very intense end to the game. But like I suppose there's games where you're clinging on, and we're going with a defensive game plan, and it was just backs to the wall, chance after chance. There are games where you're waiting on them scoring, but I just didn't today. I thought weirdly we kind of wrestled Blackburn into submission to an extent, because at the end they're not lumping it forward or herring after it. The whistle blows as they are passing it around in their own half, which they've been doing the whole game. Like, I don't know. It's strange that like we come into a game and I think their commentary team were very much, Wednesday will be happy that they've come and nicked a point off us. And it's like, I didn't feel like we'd nicked a point.
No.
I felt like they'd nicked a point. There are games you come out and you're like, oh wow, we were lucky to get. I mean, Swansea. I touched on Swansea. Swansea was just batten down the hatches, hope for the best, hold your breath. Maybe they could have had 3 penalties. This was very different to that. I'm trying to see a path forward. I'm trying to see where this, what we're growing on with, what we're building on, and I would lump this together with the kind of Norwich-esque performance, which I suppose is quite good because we haven't had one of those for a while. But I absolutely share the frustration. It's another winning position that we didn't capitalise on. It feels like another showing of a kind of, I talked about that crumb of confidence. That the defensive strength of this team feels brittle.
Yeah.
And whether that's a testament to Pulis in that he's managing to make this unwieldy gaggle of players into some semblance of a shape and a team, or whether it's a criticism of Pulis because his ambitions are so low for this group of players that the high aim is competence. I don't know. That. It's so hard to judge this group of players and where they all stand. And maybe we'll never find out, because if we do manage to make a signing or two, that will be the thing that turns a corner or doesn't turn a corner. Weird sort of game. Weird, frustrating.
Well, yeah. Again, it feels a lot like, hey, this is a point. Should it have been 2? How should we feel about this point in the context and fabric of the season? And unfortunately, we can't really say we ever really know until the end of the season.
No,
but
we would have
right now we would have taken a point
again
before a ball was kicked. I know, exactly. But then is it enough? And how many of these situations, how many of these games do we have this season where we're like, that's a missed opportunity? Oh, it's a point, but probably should have been 3, or it was no points and we should have got at least something. At least 1.
And we're in a little bit of a false... There's Lidl again. We're in a little bit of a false position in that you look at the league table and you kind of go, we're only 3 points off safety. But in that, we've got Rotherham have got their continuing COVID issues, so they've only played 19 games. And Derby have only played 20. So if they pick up, either of those two pick up points over those 3 games that are left, we are now, we're no longer a win from safety. We're further away, and if Derby say 1-1 and drew 1, that would leave us feeling quite a way off things. 7 points off safety feels a lot further away than 3. I mean, it's more than double. I don't know if you know that, Luke.
It is. It's true.
Fun with maths. Anything else notes-wise?
I'm just going to go back and have a quick look here. Rich, I think there's just kind of a litany of... I think the funny thing in so many of those situations going forward, I want to say that, despite the fact that I think in the first half I was saying from kind of my notes, was that, there's a real disjointedness in terms of our attacking play and keeping possession together and some misplaced kind of passes. Actually, in the second half, attacking wise, I thought that was the area really good. It was just the end products. There was actually some really good work from Bajo, from Reach, from Bannon. A lot of the time, it was just that end product that kind of let us down.
I was devastated by how poor that Bannon cross was, because it was so good. Like, he used the fact that Odebajo was there to beat his man, grabbed that space, and then it's one of the worst crosses I've seen in a long time, is what he doled up. I mean, if it hadn't reached the box, it might have been better than what he did with it. It was such a weird little lollipop bloop cross. It was bizarre. Well, but then again, talk about Groundhog Day. Quality let us down in those key moments, in those key areas. That's another familiar refrain this season.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at Armstrong is the second top scorer in the league. He's got 15 goals this season.
I know. But I think that's the nature of what Blackburn are doing. I mean, the funny thing is after this, again, just kind of here and kind of looking through little bits on Twitter as we talk, and I think there was a Blackburn fan saying to Nixon, this is pretty bad for Tony Mowbray. Again, that narrative that, you should really be beating Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think there is probably quite a good argument to say with Blackburn's team, they should probably be in the top 6. So it probably feels like a failing. And that feels a big failing if you're one of the top scorers in the league and you're not in the top 6 picture, then there are big problems.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just let in too many, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to look at goals for and goals against. I'm looking at the table right now. We have conceded 22 goals, so that's just over a goal a game. We have scored 12, so that's just over 0.5 goals a game. The team that has scored as many as they have conceded is, I think there's only one team that I can see, and that is Bristol City, who've actually conceded the same amount of us as 22, but scored 22. And they are 6 points deduction, kind of, let's take that out of the picture. So if it wasn't for that, we'd have 19 points. They are 14 points better off than what we are. It says a lot about how, a little in a few areas can really make the difference. And I'm really hoping that it's not going to be the case for Sheffield Wednesday at the end of the season.
I know this has now been officially a full year of saying this, because Boxing Day was the day for Gary Monk when the world changed.
He came out, didn't he? That game.
He came out. He did, yeah, in the big movie, The Heartwarming Tale. But an effective mobile striker would make so much difference to this team. Maybe even more so now than under Monk. But it's the pivot that everything needs to revolve around. I mean, goodness knows what's happening now with this window because of the player payment issues. I can only assume, going on by performances on the pitch, that they have had their payment or they've had some reassurance that it's on its way. We haven't heard any news of that, obviously, but the Sam Hutchinson thing, that we can't make the signing or something because of this situation, that what worries me, because we need something. It's just that the failure in the summer to get that player is such a, it's outsized in terms of how big it is to us. I'm looking at Kiefer Moore, or even Connor Woodrow. These are not teams that are massively better than us, but they do have decent front men to build around. Kiefer Moore's got himself 8 goals, which means he's joint 5th in the top scorers.
And Coley Woodrow on 7.
On 7, and both of them have got more than a quarter of their team's goals in that. We just don't have anyone that's it's not even, we don't need a goal every other game, man. Or, people talk about a 20 goal a season. If we had a 12 goal a season player, we would be massively better off than we are now.
Yeah.
We just don't have any reliable source of goals or threat. Reach is back to pulling rabbits out of hats, which is fantastic. I think Windass will probably pull in the same number of goals as Reach. In a good season, they'll get 6 or 7 goals each.
Yeah.
And maybe they're on track to have that sort of season, both of them. But you need the guy that gets 10 to 15 goals. on top of that. You need a reliable source of them. And the summer window, Patterson, I enjoy him as a player, but he's so wrong for what we needed.
Yeah.
Maybe Monk feels he could have turned him into that, but it's a bad signing. Spending money on him was a bad choice. It gets worse as you pull away from it and see the full picture.
Yeah, but that's only in the context of us needing a striker, right?
But that's why he was signed. He was signed as an answer to, well, you don't have Stephen Fletcher this season. What have you got? Well, we've spent some money on Callum Patterson. And the more I see of him, the less he is the guy that we needed for that. Anyway, let's do some player ratings, and we'll cheer ourselves up with some player ratings, and we'll start with Kieran Westwood.
Kieran Westwood was pretty good, I would say.
Yeah.
Questions over the goal, sure. You know, I think a younger, fresher Kieran Westwood, a different player, would have that aptitude to get down. It's a good point you raise about that. I cannot disagree with that.
But then he did make a great save to kind of counteract.
Exactly. And I mean, for a lot of us, he didn't have much to do. But I mean, again, we're looking at it and we're saying, I'm saying from this week, from last week, we just seem so much more assured at the back.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just me, and I don't think it's just you, and I don't think it's anyone else who has this observation as a Wednesday fan. But we look, it doesn't look like the ball goes to our box, and it's just, you just feel and see visually the bricking of the underpants from Joe Wildsmith and Cameron Dawson. It just, every time there's an attack, it typically always feels within that world of, I didn't expect this to happen.
Don't you think Westwood is that it's a character sort of thing? Maybe in time those two younger players will develop that character. But I get the feeling Westwood is a very, very self-assured guy.
Probably so.
The ball comes towards the goal. There's a chance in the offing for the opposition. And as you say, I feel with Dawson and Wildsmith, there's oh crap, I might have to do something here. And I feel like Westwood is more like, okay, here's my moment.
Yes.
Such a different mental attitude. And obviously it rubs off on people around him.
Well, that's the big thing I want to say about that, because I mean, I'm not going to get too airy-fairy, but I don't think this is something you can disagree with. But fear is an energy. And it's an energy that people pick up on very, very quickly. We're hard-coded to do that as humans, right?
Yes.
I don't think any of these people are master empaths, But I think it's just the same for all human beings. I think you get a situation like that where someone's feeling crappy and it rubs off, and it maybe feels very pronounced within a football team, within a football game.
Yeah, well, football, I suppose all sports, but yeah, football's a succession of tiny moments, tiny things, tiny decisions, and they all add up to big happenings. And yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't doubt that those little shifts in attitude, those little changes in approach, all have a big impact over the course of 90 minutes, but also a season, a run of games, a succession of games. And yeah, if people look around him can feed off that. Obviously, Dunkley is another positive influence around things. You see him walking to people. I can't remember who he walked off next to, but they were really getting an earful from Dunkley. He was laying out a lot of things for them. And yeah, I think that can only be a good thing, really. Do we happen on a score for Westwood?
I'll give him a 7. I think overall, I think it's pretty decent.
They were all pretty defensive, so I'm going to treat them like a back five and go to Liam Palmer first.
Liam Palmer. Palmer was decent, I thought. Again, I'm glad he's getting a run of games. I think this is the fortune of. I think it's really the fortune of the injury situation, and thankfully, hopefully, touch wood, Liam Palmer's not going to have any issues with that again. So. Or have any issues with that in general. It's pretty thin gruel at the back at Sheffield Wednesday.
Oh, aye.
So no, I thought he was good. I thought he was pretty assured. he doesn't ever worry me. It seems a long way away from Liam Palmer of yore. He's a decent professional championship defender.
Definitely. Yeah.
Really glad he's plying his trade with us, and I'm glad we have him for another season at Sheffield Wednesday.
And probably 7 out of 10. Sorry.
7 out of 10.
Trod all over that. Sorry.
It's okay.
But probably one of his quieter games. But I don't know that you always want a fullback to be showing up and grabbing the limelight. It's fine to have a nice quiet.
So, do you think he was the fullback, or do you think he was a centre back, or do you think he was a wing back? He was a centre back, right?
No, I think he was right wing back, but I don't think he got forward very much. And I think Odebajo was the one that was given the license. I think under Pulis, quite often we see like one of them. So we're always a 4 at the least kind of thing. So like one of them, they don't both go forward. Mm-hmm. And I thought Palmer was the one that kind of had the role to hang back more, and that meant Odebajo could hair forward a bit more. And I think he did that well by and large. So then we had Tom Lees.
Tom Lees was TJ Maxx with 1x this week.
Okay, nice.
7 out of 10. Very good. Very good overall. I'm disappointed he didn't score, which wasn't his fault. That was more of the officiating, which, again, I'm still a little bit staggered by. I haven't seen all of Pulis's post-match words. I would like it if he would make a bit more of a noise about that, because I don't fully understand why it was disallowed. So that's a shame, but I mean, outside of that, I mean, I think he's doing a pretty decent job right now. I think this is some of the best Tom Lees we've seen for the last 2 seasons. I'm glad he's...
Him and Dunkley seem like a good match for each other, don't they?
They do. It seems a good pairing. Whether they're actually 2 of a back 4 or whether they're 2 of a back 3, whatever it is, him and Dunks seem to get on pretty well.
Good stuff. What about the man himself then, Dunkley? Big Dunks.
It's good. I can see him. He's just getting more comfortable. He's he's taking his shoes off. He's come round. He's gone into your own closet and found a pair of slippers just out of his own. And you're like, it's fine. I want you to be comfortable, Che.
Don't make yourself at home. I mean, you're a little bit shocked, but you're not upset.
The only bit that would be frustrating is if I'd decide later on to chop up some spuds and pop them in the air fryer and make some fries. If at that point he decides he wants some orange chips like they have in the West Midlands, that's the point I'm going to fucking kick off, Rich. I'm going to let him know about it. No. I'll just put a bit of food dye in your air fryer. Fuck off, Che. Doesn't make it taste any better. It just looks orange. Hang around. Next time you come round, I'll order you some orange shades off Amazon. And you can put those on while you eat your chips. Then they'll look orange.
Once again, we have not even scratched the surface. We've brushed the surface of Luke and found this deep-seated hatred for everything West Midlands.
Everything West Midlands. Pretty much. It's on brand.
Getting a numerical score, Big Dunks.
He's getting a 7. Yeah, I'm glad I'm really glad we've got a settled defense. I mean, I think we're probably seeing, 1 goal conceded in the last 2 games. That's certainly a lot better than the standard 2 goals we were conceding every game. So I think we're seeing improvements defensively.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I want to give them all positive scores and say, well done.
What about today's third wheel defensively, JVA?
JVA, third wheel.
Gooseberry.
I thought he was all right. I think maybe I'm going to go slightly a bit less than a 6.5, I think. I don't think that's too bad.
No, I think that's fair enough.
I thought he was good. Again, it looks like, I don't know if that's a groin injury. That's...
I know.
I've done my groin and it's not fun.
No.
It's not fun. It's not just like falling to the pitch, holding your piece like you did. It's not a good holding your piece.
No. What about Moses then?
Moses Odebajo. I liked Odebajo today. I thought he was good. I prefer him further up the pitch. I prefer when he has that license because it's less calamities he can pull at the back. It's less. Let's go with a 7. I think a 7 seems fair. He did some really, really good work, like up the pitch. Again, but I mean, he's not going to be a player who's going to eventually do all that great stuff to, that final amazing, great end product. But I mean, he puts a good shift in.
He does, and again, I mean, almost endless energy. He was doing a bit of closing down in like the 92nd minute. And I just thought, how on earth is it Moses Odubajo that's doing this? Like Harris was on the pitch by that point, and he was still the one that was racing into their half, closing people down. No, I thought he had a good game all round. So that I'm going to tackle the midfield 3. I'm going to go to Joey Pelopessi first.
Pelopessi, I'll go with a 6 today.
Fair enough.
I thought he was okay. I didn't, but again, he didn't really have that role that he kind of had last time, though, is he? Where it's just like one player doing something by himself.
No, I think he did that. They tried to do that to Dak when he came on, but I don't know how successfully he did it, to be honest.
No, so it wasn't quite the delight of last week, was it? Really?
I do wonder about Holtby was the worst player on their team who scored wise, and I wonder if maybe that was Pelopessi's man. That tends to mark out the person that he's spending most of his game with, is that they don't get a particularly good score. But I didn't notice him doing quite so thorough a job today. Definitely, I couldn't testify to that. So 6 seems fair enough. What about Patterson?
I will tell you what about Patterson. I'll give him a 6. He was okay.
He didn't have much influence today, did he?
No.
It's hard to blame the goal on any one player because it's almost like what's the Agatha Christie where like it turns out they've all stabbed.
The Orient Express.
Yeah. It's like the opposite.
That's
of
a spoiler,
like
by the way, folks.
They all could have tackled the guy dribbling. There's like 6 people. They're all guilty.
We haven't spoiled a film for quite a while, have we?
No. So it's good to get that back in the. I think as well. That's so old. If you don't know by now, you don't really care. What about Barry Bannon?
Bannon was decent. He did a lot of good in the middle of the park. Played some good balls. Yeah, especially considering he came back from having a bit of an injury last week. Thought he was decent. I'm going to give a 7 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah. I think he was as guilty as anyone of the lack of quality in key moments. But he certainly played a big part in driving pretty much everything good that happened. He was there or thereabouts in terms of pushing things forward. So I think, all round a pretty good game from Wee Baz. Let's go to Adam Reach next. He's sort of part of the midfield and also sort of up front. I think
I'm going to give him a 7.5 because I definitely think he's a man of the match. What a great goal he just pulled out of nowhere. Again, brilliant cross for Lees to head home as well, which was obviously disallowed. Yeah.
Do you want to hear something weird? So we talked about the fact that Mowbray would have been his boss. So quote on the BBC website. And this is so strange because I would say the whole career of Adam Reach has been marked out in opposition to this. But anyway, I've managed Adam Reach at Middlesbrough. You could give him another 50 goes at that, and I don't think he's putting it in the top corner. I like Adam, but for me, we handed it to him on a plate. But that's so opposite to like it's normally a player, talking about a player, you'd say like, oh yeah, he's good at that. Like give him the chance and he'll score more than he doesn't or whatever. Or 9 times out of 10 he hits that. But it's so weird for someone to go like, no, I've seen him train. He couldn't hit a cow's ass with a banjo.
Yes.
What a weird, bitter thing to say.
It's a very, very bitter thing to come out with.
An old grumpy so-and-so, Tony Mowbray is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, sorry, just because we were sort of considering that maybe out of respect to him, he wasn't, was maybe why he didn't celebrate so wholly. But after the match to get slagged off by him is a bit rough. 7.5, fair enough. What a good goal. Adam Reach is having a much better season. It's undoubted, and we'd be much the poorer if he wasn't continuing to turn up and perform as he is doing. What about Josh Windass?
I'm giving him a 6. I've been really disappointed with Josh Windass. Like, this is the thing. I mean, you talk about like a mobile, competent, confident striker. He's all of that, but he doesn't have the confidence right now.
Yeah, he had a good chance, didn't he? They got the set piece that led to when he won the free kick. He was put through once, and it was a good bit of defending. I thought he hit that. It looked like he'd struck that pretty well, but it was struck along the floor. But he's getting half chances and just not quite making them, pushing them over the line into anything significant. Which I think earlier in the season he was making a better fist of things by and large. Unfortunately, I still think he's the only player that can do what he does in our whole squad.
I know, but I need him to get a bit of confidence from somewhere.
And we didn't have any Rhodes today.
No Rhodes at all.
I think that was the first. That's the first Pulis game he's not played a part in. Wow. Certainly the first for a while. Okay, 6 for Windass seems fair enough. What about Shoei?
He was okay, wasn't he? I don't remember much of what he did. 6?
6. I think he was saved by Westwood from being on the receiving end of a highlight reel turning inside out by Armstrong. So, but Westwood did make the save, so it's not good to dwell on these things. Kadeem Harris?
Go for a 6 as well. I don't know sure what he did.
Did he when he came on?
No.
And once again, Izzy Brown sort of faltered on his long-awaited return.
It's a 6 for Izzy Brown, which isn't a great surprise, but I think that he did a little bit better than the last couple of games. He's getting marginally better, you know, like going halfway the distance to the wall. You know, he's getting a bit closer to being up to snuff.
I hope so. I thought again he just looked so awkward and out of place.
But he always gets put on up front though, doesn't he? Or he always comes on in place of a striker.
Yeah.
Which isn't really what we brought in Izzy Brown for.
No. Yeah. I would like to see. I mean, it's so tricky because you need minutes to get fit, and then if you're not fit, you don't get to start games, etc. But it would be nice to see him in this midfield three, where not always, but occasionally, one of the three gets to be a bit more attacking. It would be nice to see him played in that position and see how he does.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know whether it will work out or whether it will happen. It will probably, a bit like Palmer, it will probably take an injury or two to, the hand of Big Tone will have to be forced into doing it because it's so outrageously attacking in its nature.
Which is interesting, but it's a weird thing because I also feel like with FDB, I don't think there are enough injuries that would ever make him start, seemingly. Yeah.
He should maybe try and learn a new position.
Possibly. Or that position might be at a different football club, maybe.
Maybe. He has talked, that's another thing Pulis has talked about, is loaning out players, isn't it? So we might see movement in either direction if we're allowed to do any business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there we go. And just a strange game, a strange performance to wrap things up. It's not wrapping things up for the year. We've got Borough. One more. 2020 has one more game for us.
Mm-hmm.
I think broadly this, it's all relative, but broadly this fits into the category of one of our better games, certainly under Tony Pulis.
Yeah, I think so.
And I guess we've got to just take that positive from it, and the fact that we would have taken a point ahead of the game. This is, Blackburn are undoubtedly kind of big hitters in terms of the division we're in relative to us. They're a team with lots and lots of threats. We're a team with we are minor threat. That's what we're bringing to the party. So yeah, I think strange game, strange feelings. It's sad to drop another drop points from another winning position. But on the whole, we've got to sort of pick the positives out and keep rolling. I'm going to say cheerio. I hope everyone's having a pleasant and safe festive period, and we'll talk again very soon.
That sounds great, Rich.
In 2021, would you Adam and Eve it?
I'll chat to you next year.
Yeah. See you on the other side.
Okay.
Bye.
See you, bye.